Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa. Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama, wherever you're watching the Joe Gaither Show right here on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. I am, of course, Joe Gaither. You're watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. You're finding us at Joe Gaither6 on all the social media devices, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, and you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and on Amazon. Really, anywhere that you're finding your podcast, you can find the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. And we are a proud part of the BamaCentral Broadcasting Network. I really appreciate BamaCentral, Chris Walsh, and the whole team supporting me each and every day. Having a great week here at BamaCentral. Really a great week in Alabama football world, Alabama athletics world. I know Rome is burning. No, it's not burning. I'm starting to feel like we're going the other way here around Alabama football. So we're going to talk a lot about Alabama football today on the Joe Gaither Show. Before we get into it, we will encourage you to listen to our other BamaCentral Broadcasting Network podcasts. We've got our friends Blue Collar Unplugged with Matthew Gibson, Blake Byler, and the president of Crimson Chaos, Jacob Pickle, going to give you all things Alabama basketball related on Blue Collar Unplugged. But we are not here to talk about basketball yet, unless you want to talk about the nice putt that Nate Oates made on his social media. But we're here to talk about Alabama football. Alabama football. Before we get into the conversation, I want to thank Scott Hunter for joining me on the program on Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever you guys got to see that. I had that conversation with Scott Hunter on Tuesday, got it posted later in the evening due to just logistics, and then we ran it most of the day on Wednesday right here on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. You can listen to Scott Hunter's interview on any of the platforms that I just mentioned. If you're watching it, if you choose to watch it on YouTube, on the BamaCentral YouTube channel, you can watch the 1969 Alabama Ole Miss game right there as you listen to that interview. So obviously great historic game that Alabama won 33-32. It was the first nationally televised college night game. Right there on ABC, and I really appreciate Scott Hunter for giving me his time. You can read about his comments right there on BamaCentral.com. He gave kind of his take on Alabama's offense and what the Tide needs to do now that Alabama has settled its quarterback equation. So we're going to talk about the quarterbacks. We're going to talk about Nick Saban's approach to the quarterbacks. We're going to talk about Lane Kiffin. We're going to talk about Ole Miss. We're going to go back and talk a little bit. We're going to mix the Ole Miss talk in with the USF talk. We're going to talk about Lane Kiffin's opinion about the Alabama defense and really what I noticed with my own amateur eyes with the Alabama defense against USF. Now, obviously, it was against USF. The talent disparity is pretty wide. The gap is pretty wide. So we understand that, but we'll talk about that as well. We'll hit on the end a little bit of news for the Sports Illustrated front. Remember, BamaCentral, we are the Sports Illustrated home for your Alabama Crimson Tide. So Sports Illustrated, the daddy company right here, making an announcement that pertains to you in Tuscaloosa or you, the internet world, coming to Tuscaloosa for a game, whether it be football, basketball, baseball, softball, or just visiting in the summer, moving your children in or out, or just seeing the campus in the summertime. A little bit of news pertaining to Tuscaloosa from our friends at Sports Illustrated. And then we'll also hit Alabama soccer taking on Arkansas. We'll hit that later in the program. We'll save that for the end, obviously. And then we will also debut our week number 3 SEC Silly Sound. I got to admit, week 1, I was very happy with my product. Week 2, I was less than enthused with my product. Week 3, I am very excited for you guys to hear week 3's edition of SEC Silly Sound. Massive thanks to Eli Drinkwitz of the Missouri Tigers, giving me a lot of great juice on SEC Silly Sound. We cut it down from the 6-minute version to about 4.5 minutes. We got it a lot tighter this week, and we used new coaches, Eli Drinkwitz, Josh Heupel, making their debuts on SEC Silly Sound. So stick around for the very end. Or if you don't want to listen to the program and you can just want to click on it, it's right there on BamaCentral.com. SEC Silly Sound week number 3 montage coming up at the end of the program. All right, so let's get into it. Let's get right into it. Okay, first off, the most important topic, the Alabama signal caller. If you listen to our discussion with Scott Hunter on Tuesday, you already know that Jalen Milroe was named the starting quarterback on Monday. Nick Saban came out on his Monday press conference and said that Jalen Milroe is our guy. He's going to be the guy going forward. And then really doubled down through the week. On the SEC teleconference on Wednesday, our friend Steve Moulton asked about Nick Saban, really asked about if the cake is ready or not. You can read those comments right there on BamaCentral.com. Austin Hannon writing that up for us right there at BamaCentral.com. And Nick Saban said, yes, I think the cake is ready. He said, I think we pulled the cake out. We put it back in the oven. Now we have pulled it back out again. And you guys, if you are bakers, or if your wives or friends, or if your ladies watching the show, I love you very much as well. If you're bakers, you know, sometimes you pull the muffins out early, you pull the cake out early, you pull the brownies out early, and they're not quite done yet. You stick the toothpick in them, and you pull out the toothpick and you see if there's any batter left on the toothpick. And sometimes, I mean, if you're doing brownies, maybe you want the batter, a little bit of gooiness inside. But if you're doing cake, if you're doing muffins, if you're doing other sort of baked goods, bread, you don't want any batter left on the toothpick. So maybe Nick Saban did a little toothpick test over the course of the USF game and realized, okay, got to put the cake back in the oven for just a little bit longer. And now he says the cake is ready. And Steve Moulton pressed Nick Saban just a little bit, asking it, do you think we'll run or see a 2-quarterback system in the future or this weekend? Nick Saban's saying, no, don't expect a 2-quarterback system. So it seems like all systems go for Jalen Milroe. All systems go. Jalen Milroe is the guy. He's quarterback 1. And then following up, Nick Saban Wednesday evening for his press conference. Oh, yeah, that was yesterday for his press conference. He doubles down and he's getting asked by our friend Nick Alvarez of AL.com. Nick Alvarez asking about the backup quarterback situation. Obviously, everybody wants to know how the pecking order fell after Jalen Milroe. You've got our friends Ty Simpson, Tyler Buchner. You've got our friends Dylan Lanigan, maybe Eli Holstein hanging out there. And Nick Saban giving us a very, very clear picture, saying that Ty Simpson is the number 2 quarterback. So you're walking into SEC play, and you know who you're going to have. You know it's Jalen Milroe number 1. You know it's Ty Simpson number 2. And he never clarified who is going to be the number 3 quarterback, but you can just assume based off what we have seen so far in the season that Tyler Buchner is going to play the number 3 role, and we'll see Dylan Lanigan maybe never this year, probably going to be on the redshirt list along with Eli Holstein. And maybe if you want to see Dylan Lanigan in an Alabama uniform, acting in an Alabama uniform, playing in an Alabama uniform, you'll have to get out to Sewell Thomas Stadium to see Dylan Lanigan pitch for the Crimson Tide this coming spring. I think that's going to be in the cards. We'll have to see about that. So there's your quarterback position. How do you feel about it? How do you feel, Alabama Crimson Tide fans or college football fans watching the show, listening to the show, about Jalen Milroe being the number 1 quarterback and Ty Simpson operating as the number 2? I'll tell you how I feel. I feel meh. Here's how I feel really. How I feel really is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's the quarterback. It all matters about the offensive line. Look, I did the rewatch. Oh my gosh, I rewatched the USF game. It was absolutely atrocious play most of the time by the Alabama offensive line. Now, it wasn't always on one player or another. You had busts from all 5 players. Obviously, the line was missing Tyler Booker on Saturday. So you had Caden Proctor, TJ Ferguson, Sept McLaughlin, Darian Dalcourt, and then J.C. Latham from left to right. And so you're missing Tyler Booker, which is a big factor. And we talked about it on the Monday show that I do think that when Tyler Booker gets back into the lineup, you're going to lose Darian Dalcourt and you're going to play Ferguson either at the guard position that Dalcourt vacates, or you're going to bump Dalcourt into the center and you're going to lose Seth McLaughlin out of the line. I personally think you're going to lose Darian Dalcourt first, but that's going to be the line. And this week, Coach Saban's confirming that Tyler Booker has practiced, saying that, okay, I can't guarantee that they're going to play, he and Jaheim Otis, but they both practiced this week. And so, look, your line, I'm expecting it to be Caden Proctor, Tyler Booker, Seth McLaughlin, TJ Ferguson, and then boom, JC Latham on Saturday. And yes, all the eyes are going to be on the quarterback. Everybody knows the quarterback makes all the decisions, and obviously you don't want to have the two ugly interceptions that you had against the Texas Longhorns. Oh my gosh, they were two of the worst interceptions that we have seen in an Alabama uniform since probably, in my opinion, Tua Tagovailoa's interception in the national championship game against Clemson, where Clemson jumps the route and really knew what was coming, and Tua just did not understand or did not grasp the coverage. What was that national championship game? 2016, I believe. 2016 national championship game. Trevor Lawrence and them boys beat the brakes off of Alabama 44-17. So you've gone many years without an ugly interception. Obviously, Mac Jones throws two interceptions against Auburn in his second start, replacing Tua Tagovailoa in the 19 season. But boom, it was one of them was off Najee Harris's back due to pressure in the end zone. Obviously, that was a backbreaker. It went back for 100 yards for a touchdown, for an Auburn touchdown. But I don't think it was an ugly read. It was the right read. Everything was wide open. You just didn't get a block from who was it? Ali Cahoe playing fullback, and then obviously Mac throws another interception deep into Auburn territory in that game. Bryce really never had an ugly interception. Never. And maybe I'm wrong, and you can let me know in the comments at Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, at Joe Gaither 6, or just jump into my DMs on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, at Joe Gaither 6, whatever you like. But I don't think Bryce ever really had an ugly interception. Now, Jalen had a couple ugly interception against A&M, but it was more of a moonshot, long punt situation. And so, look, last 2 weeks ago against Texas, those are the two ugliest interceptions in an Alabama uniform probably since Tua Tagovailoa against Clemson. All right. Yeah, was that? Oh, it was 2018, right? I forget. It was basically, you all know what I'm talking about. Trevor Lawrence's season. So Jalen's going to be the guy. And really, like I said, I don't know that it is heavily matters that much. What I think is that it all comes down to the offensive line. Will the offensive line gel together? Because look, you saw on the tape. If you want to look at my rewatch, you can see it at Joe Gaither 6 on the Twitter machine. I throw 60 something clips from the USF game right in order, so you can follow along the game and you can see what went wrong for Alabama. Yeah, Tyler Buckner delivered or made some good reads, but just could not physically throw the football consistently enough and place the football consistently enough to move the ball and operate an offense. Ty Simpson was basically murdered back there. Ty Simpson was turned into a pulp. USF getting 5 sacks on the day, many pressures on the day. The offensive line has to improve going forward if you want to win the SEC West. You have to develop a running game. Big shout out to Roydell Williams for his big performance on Saturday. And Nick Saban on Wednesday talking about maybe we'll see more Justice Haynes and Jam Miller going forward in the season. Basically complimenting Jace McClellan and Roydell. But I think it all comes down to the offensive line. I really do. I think the offensive line has shown very, very small flashes this year, but mostly through 3 weeks, it's been pretty meh. It's been pretty poor. It's been pretty ugly. And it's been pretty discouraging considering what the offensive line kind of walked into the season saying, oh, we want to make teams quit. J.C. Latham at SEC Media Days. We want to reestablish the Alabama factor. We want to get nasty. Tyler Booker. We want to be nasty. Seth McLaughlin saying that. And basically, we want to be the catalyst for the Alabama offense. So far, you haven't been that. You really haven't been that. You've seen a handful of moonshots from Jalen Milroe to receivers down the field, and you've seen, quick plays, quick execution. Nothing really happening for Alabama in the mid-range game as far as passing the football, and not really very much consistency running the ball. You've seen Jace McClellan break a couple of runs. You saw Roydell Williams this past weekend break like a 40-yarder. Obviously, Jalen Milroe on a couple of scrambles has made some plays. But when the tide lines up, and is deciding to run the football, not really that much consistency. I mean, obviously, you got to give credit to Texas and their defensive front, and you got to give credit to USF and their blitzing and stunting. That did create an issue. They stunted into the field many, many times, a lot during the ball game, and so that disrupted the running game. But come on, this is supposed to be the biggest offensive line in the country. This is supposed to be the biggest offensive line in Alabama history. These guys are supposed to be the meanest offensive line and supposed to be, resetting the tone. And you haven't seen that so far through 3 weeks. Does that mean they can't do it? No. That means they just haven't done it so far. I'll remind you, Scott Hunter, saying that this team is still in its infancy. Well, you are now gone from infancy to toddler, and it's time to start walking. You can't run yet, but it's time to start walking. Really, if you're a toddler version of this year's team, it's time to get on your feet and start walking, start babbling, start communicating all the way up front. Yes, some of the problems have been miscommunications. Obviously, against USF, Coach Saban really crediting Tyler Booker for keeping Caden Proctor on assignment. Caden Proctor against USF showed a handful of mental lapses and a handful of physical lapses. I think that while he's going to be a great player, I do think he's going to be a great player for Alabama. Right now, the game is a little bit fast for him. Obviously, it's not high school football in Iowa. No disrespect to Iowa, but it's just not high school football in Iowa. And he's a big old dude. But maybe you just got to lose a little bit of that weight and get a little bit of agility. So, okay, you got Jalen Milroe. What are we going to do? What you going to do to lead the Alabama offense? I think it goes back to Tommy Rees. Tommy Rees has got to call a game that is conducive to Jalen Milroe's skill sets. Now, look at the MTSU matchup. MTSU, of course, the game fooled me. I thought Alabama was going to be basically what you saw against MTSU the rest of the year. The game fooled me. It did. And Jalen Milroe played a great game. He really played an efficient game. His first reads were open a lot of the time, and he hit his first reads a lot of the time. The quick game was very effective in the mid-range, and it allowed the offense to run some play action passes and soften up the defense with the running game, even though it wasn't really beautiful in the running game. It was effective enough to open up play action passes down the field. And now you've got wide receivers and you've got tight ends that are going to be beating defensive backs and beating secondaries and beating linebackers at an MTSU level. But you're not going to be playing any more MTSU level teams. Ole Miss this weekend, Mississippi State the next, Arkansas, Texas A&M, they're all coming. And yes, Arkansas, I think, is not a good football team right now. Losing to BYU, I don't think that Mississippi State is a really great football team either, getting shellacked by LSU. I think LSU is starting to find their footing. So look, you got two pretty big games. Look, every game's a big game at this point. Now that you've lost to Texas, you probably need to go through and win the West. You absolutely need to win the West. And so to do that, you don't want to lose a game, especially with LSU looking very strong. I know Tennessee had a poor performance against Florida, but they're probably going to bounce back against either Alabama or Georgia and probably play a really hell of a good game. Auburn hasn't really been tested that far, but Auburn, we're going to learn a lot about Auburn this weekend. I think they're going over to Georgia. No, Georgia's going to Auburn. Right? Yeah, Georgia's going to Auburn this coming weekend or next. So it's going, next weekend. Auburn's going to A&M, and then Georgia's going to Auburn the next weekend. So you're going to learn a lot about Auburn and A&M and a lot of your SEC Western foes as this weekend really gets rolling our full slate of SEC football. All this to say, Tommy Rees has got to call a game that's conducive to Jalen Milroe's skill sets and conducive to the Alabama offensive line. What did you see in the last 7 minutes of the ball game against USF? You saw a bit of the dominance that you wanted to see. They stuck with the run game. They were patient with it. Roydell Williams broke off a pretty good run. He broke off a second run for a touchdown that ultimately got called back for a holding call, but came right back after the holding call, got a lot of the yardage back, still plugged away in the running game, and was able to get the ball into the end zone for the proverbial nail in the coffin. So, Tommy Reese, what did I notice on film that worked very well for this Alabama offense? You got to know a lot of 12 personnel, and you're going to have to stick with that. You're going to have to stick with that. Keep Dupree and Nyblack on the field, and you know you got to pop Nyblack off the field for Oots sometimes, and really get the Alabama tight ends going in 12 personnel. I think the Alabama tight ends were very, very helpful to the offensive line, both in blocking and effectively in the passing game. C.J. Dupree catching a big 45-yarder. Mari Nyblack, you've already seen what he can do in the passing game. I'm of the opinion that you really stick to 12 personnel 60, 70, 80% of the time. You leave it as your baseline this year. Look, for you guys who aren't football savvy, 12 personnel, one running back, two tight ends. One running back, two tight ends, that's 3. Quarterback is 4. 5 on the offensive line is 9. 2 receivers, it makes you 11. You're 11, your 2 receivers. Look, Jermaine Burton, you did not impress me against USF. Very, very poor effort in a lot of areas. So, rotating Ja'Cory Brooks, Isaiah Bond, Malik Benson, a little didn't really impress me either. Hasn't impressed me yet either, even though I had loved him coming into the year. So, you use the 2 receiver positions to kind of just rotate guys in and out, in and out, in and out. Kendrick Law is going to get a lot of more run. I know Coach Saban was really not upset, but really disappointed that he wasn't able to be utilized this past weekend due to illness. So you get in 12 personnel all day long. You get in 12 personnel, and the other thing is, Tommy Reese, either A, get under center, which you've barely seen this year. And I think that with Seth McLaughlin snapping issues, which were still there on Saturday, getting under center is going to mitigate and going to take that X factor, take that wild card, take that variable out of the offense. Just get under center. Snap it right into Jalen Milroe's hands. All right, you don't want to do that. Get it in the pistol formation. Alabama, when they use pistol over the course of the game against USF, and when they use pistol against MTSU, it gets the running back downhill. It gets the running backs going downhill. It gives kind of that, it's kind of I formation, but it's in shotgun. If you guys aren't familiar with that, it's where the running back, you're in shotgun, but the running back's behind the quarterback. So you take the snap. It gets the running back out on the edges and running downhill more effectively, in my opinion. And it gives you room to slide the tight end across the line of scrimmage and pick up the backside pressure or kick out somebody if you're running power. It gives you the opportunity, the tight end, to run through the hole as the lead blocker, and basically it allows more room for your offensive line it allows more room for your offensive line, for your tight ends, and for your running backs to move. I think pistol formation needs to become a staple of this Alabama offense going forward. And you get Jalen Milroe handing it off in pistol formation, or you get him faking a handoff, pulling it, rolling out. You move a guard, and you're setting more of a rollout formation for Jalen Milroe. The pistol formation has been highly effective for Alabama going forward this year. And so whether you want to split out Nyblack and make it look like a 3 receiver set, or you want to bring him in right off the wing and make it a true 12 personnel set, I think the pistol formation is going to be very, very effective for Alabama going forward. And a lot of people are really worried about this weekend's game. You've got Alabama walking into hosting Ole Miss in Bryant-Denny Stadium, and you've got Alabama is a 6.5-point favorite. Just put up the Twitter poll. I meant to put it up yesterday, but I put it up today. The Twitter poll of who's your bet. Your proverbial $100. I've got 35 votes on it so far through this. And look, 66% of people are taking Ole Miss already with plus 6.5. I think, you're wondering with the Ole Miss game, what's going to be. Obviously, if you look at the first 3 weeks, and you just keep it to the evidence through the first 3 weeks, you keep it to the evidence to the first 3 weeks that Ole Miss has played much better football than Alabama has. And that's fine. It is what it is. Both teams have everything right there in front of them. Ole Miss beating Mercer 77-3, beating going on the road and beating Tulane by 17 points, and then this past weekend hosting Georgia Tech and beating them pretty handily, having an offensive explosion in the second half of most of these games. It's going to be important for Alabama to maintain control of the clock, keep the chains moving on time, on schedule. I like Jalen Milroe in 3rd and 4. I like Jalen Milroe in 3rd and 5. I don't like Jalen Milroe in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12. I don't like that. But Jalen Milroe in 3rd and 5, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 3rd and medium or under. I like that. So Tommy Rees, look at what you've done right now. You've got your decision. Nick Saban has said, this is your guy, Jalen Milroe. So what do? You look over the 3 weeks. You say, Liz, are all the complement, the packages of plays we've operated and we've used over 3 weeks. You got 2 weeks of evidence with Milroe, 1 week of evidence with Buckner and Simpson. But really, it's all about the offensive line. What has the offensive line executed well over 3 weeks? What have we done to help them? Look, the running backs have looked pretty suspect in pass protection. I think that, I definitely think they're giving their all, 100%. I think they're giving their all, but you've looked pretty suspect in either knowing who to block or the actual execution of the block. Jace McClellan's been run over a handful of times by rushing linebackers and rushing defensive ends. Roydell Williams has looked a little lost on who to block, and when he's figured out somebody to block, it's been a little on the soft side. But you've had a lot of success with the tight ends helping out on the line. So 12 personnel. Get in 12 personnel. Get in the pistol formation. Get downhill. Stay on schedule. I think Alabama, and it might just be my crimson-colored glasses at this point, and I'm still I get another 24 hours until tomorrow's program to figure out my pick officially, but I'm feeling like Alabama's about to surprise some people. I'm feeling like Alabama's about to get back into, okay, this is who we are. In the first 3 weeks have just been kind of experimental. Of course, you don't want to lose to Texas, or you don't want to play the way that you played against Texas. And but you clean a couple of those errors up. You clean up the turnovers. And you leave the defense off the field a little bit more in the fourth quarter. Everything's right there in front of you. You walked into the fourth quarter with a lead despite one turnover. Then you turn the ball over. And so, look, it's all right there. Did we walk away from the Texas game feeling, not good about ourselves? Yes. Of course. Not good about the team, not good about the effort. And the effort, I think you can still question against USF. I don't really have a good answer for why the USF game was so lackluster, so sleepwalky, and in so many different ways. But I think that now that you've got clarity at the quarterback position, you're going to see a little bit better off Alabama offense. You're going to see a little bit better level of execution because Tommy Rees knows I've got, there's nobody that he's going to turn to, whether he can't call Coach Saban down on the sideline and say, look, these plays aren't working for Milroe. Can we please put in Simpson? Can I please use Buckner? No. I think Nick Saban's gone into his office and said, this is the guy we're using. Figure it the bleep out right now. And obviously, we're playing Ole Miss this weekend. You've got to control the clock. You've got to give the defense time to adjust on the sidelines. You don't need to leave the defense out there over and over and over all the time, kind of like you did against Texas through the first and second half. I think the defense played fairly well for most of the Texas game, but just kind of ran out of steam against the Longhorns. All right, so there's some of my notes. Alabama at 6.5. Look, I'm still not really sure how I'm feeling about Alabama, 6.5 point favorite. I know walking into the week, Alabama at 11 points. I was like, no way, Ole Miss is going to cover that. Now it's down. It got down to 6. It got down to 7. Now it's down to 6.5. I'm starting to go the other way. And think that Alabama might put on one of these classic Nick Saban, classic Alabama performances that surprises the nation and says, hey, you want to drop us to number 13 in the AP poll? Well, watch this here now that we're galvanized, now that we have our clarity. Look, clarity of mind, clarity of strategy, clarity of direction is extremely valuable for you in your daily life, for me in my daily life, and for any team. You got to know, oh, this is the goalie, this is the point guard, this is the starting quarterback, this is the number one pitcher, here's the first baseman, whatever sports you want to talk about. Anytime you have position controversy, it, whether you want to admit it or not, it does divide the team in a little bit subconsciously, even subconsciously, even for the best teammates. So I think the clarity is going to be very, very, very valuable for this Alabama team. And it's going to be very, very valuable for Tommy Rees as well, because Tommy's going to know, all right, there's no, hey, man, can I please put in Buckner? Can I please put in Simpson? Maybe we can try Lonigan. No, you've got to draw up a game plan. You've had all 6 days, really, all 6 days to get this game plan right and operate an offense that, or call an offense that Jalen Milroe can operate at a high level. Going back to our conversation with Scott Hunter on Tuesday, and you can watch Scott Hunter's conversation on the YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, listen to it on Amazon, Apple Podcast, and on Spotify. Scott Hunter said you got to call quick steps. You got to call quick reads. You got to call quick, easy completions early to build Jalen Milroe's confidence. And I think that is very, very true. Before we get away from the quarterbacks and move into the defense, I want to play Nick Saban's comments on Pat McAfee's show today. He's been joining Pat McAfee at noon on Thursdays. And so here is really kind of the last word that we have heard about the quarterbacks from Nick Saban. We'll hear from Nick Saban again tonight on Hey Coach, and you can keep up with all the updates right there at BamaCentral.com. But at 12:05, Nick Saban gave kind of his last words on the quarterbacks so far this week.
So, interesting decision. I think you would even say this, right? Not playing Milroe, having Buckner and Simpson play, and then now we go to Milroe. Interesting from the outside looking in. I assume there's a plan. What was that a plan going in? Like, how do we get to that decision, Coach, if you could walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think that, first off, the other quarterbacks had very close competition, and they didn't really get much of an opportunity to play. So we started this conversation with the fact that, hey, we're going to maybe look at somebody else playing the position, may last for a quarter or whatever. But then you got to get ready to play, and I want to see you handle this. And, everybody handles frustrations a little differently. And I think sometimes you got to direct your frustration and make it a motivator. You can get upset by it, you can get angry by it, but you can also get motivated by it, and I always remember, Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all time. And he has 3 people when he gets into the Hall of Fame, the coach that cut him, the coach that benched him, and the guy that took his place when he got benched. And he said, this directed my feelings for my whole career in terms of how it motivated me to try to be the best player that I could be. And we want our players, when these things happen, to direct their feelings in a way that's going to help them be better players. Jalen did that this week, and I'm pleased with his performance. He's got nothing to prove. Here, he's our guy. He's the guy that, I have confidence in, and I just had a meeting with him a little bit ago and clean up some fundamental things and watch him play.
So the internet reacted to him congratulating Simpson, I believe, whenever he made a big-time play. You're seeing all those things, judging all those things, analyzing all those things, I assume, testing his leadership, seeing what he's made of?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in the end, this will make him better.
All right, so there you have it. Nick Saban basically saying he's got nothing to prove. He is our guy, and we're rolling forward with Jalen Milroe. All right, so just a couple more topics here left on the Joe Gaither Show before we hit you with the SEC Silly Sound of week number 3. I'm very proud of this week's edition of Silly Sound. Last week, not so good, I'll be honest. But we went back to the drawing board. We reviewed the tape. We looked at all of our mistakes. We cleaned up our errors, and we came back out this week with high energy and high effort. And I think you're going to like this week's edition of SEC Silly Sound. Let's talk about the defense just real quick, because Lane Kiffin on Sunday insinuated that Alabama was being led by a different defensive coordinator this past week against USF. Nick Saban responds on Monday saying, no, Kevin Steele is still the defensive coordinator. What we did was a little bit of administration work, a little bit of administration adjustment. Obviously, Kevin Steele is up in the press box, and great. Coach Saban has said, I let my coordinators choose whatever they think they can be more effective with. Both Tommy Rees and Kevin Steele up in the press box. This year, you had Pete Golding down on the field. You had Bill O'Brien up in the press box. So, you've had many different versions of many different feels for all the coordinators in the past couple of years. But look, if you watch the Texas game, if you're in the building for the Texas game, or if you watch it on TV, you could tell Alabama struggled when Texas went tempo. Alabama struggled getting the plays in, getting to the line, getting lined up, and communicating when Texas went tempo. If you've watched Alabama football over the last 5 to 7 years, I kind of think that Alabama has struggled kind of consistently at getting the plays in when the other teams are going tempo, at substitutions when the other teams are going tempo. I think Alabama has, no disrespect to you, Coach Saban, but I think that's been an area of deficiency, an area of improvement, an area that needs to be improved for Alabama. Getting the plays in, getting lined up, getting everybody coordinated. Look, Nick Saban is a defensive genius, but sometimes his genius is sometimes I think his ability to understand what an offense is doing and want to call the perfect play call, or want to have his defensive coordinators get Alabama into the perfect play call, sometimes slows you down just a hair. I do. Now, again, like I've said many times, the next game that I coach will be my first. So Nick Saban obviously doesn't give a rip what I have to say, and maybe you don't either. But I feel like Nick Saban and the Alabama defense has always been looking for, this is the perfect play, this will lock everybody up. And it hasn't always been the case, because I think you've struggled getting the play in, getting lined up, getting it executed, and having everybody realize, all right, you've called X, Y, Z, and ABC, and here's my responsibility. Oh, crap, they just snapped the ball. And there we go. Whoa. Well, I'll tell you what I noticed when I watched the USF tape. One, I did notice stylistically, Alabama got into more pressure packages. Whether you were bringing Deontay Lawson, whether you were bringing Jihad Campbell, whether you were bringing different guys from the linebacking room. Now, look, I think that Alabama played a really nice game defensively. Of course, the talent disparity is there with USF, and obviously that's got to be taken into consideration. But you've got you gave USF a lot of different looks. And you had the combination of playing Tim Keenan, playing Tim Smith, playing Justin Aboigbe. You had Jamarian Latham play. You had Deron Payne play. You had our man Deontay Lawson play. Oh gosh, Trez Marshall played. Not really been impressed with Trez Marshall through 3 weeks, really and truly. And maybe it's my own biases to transferees, wanting to see the Alabama athletes, the true Alabama commits, receive the playing time over the transferees. That's kind of been a bias that I've tried to overcome since the transfer portal has been here. But you moved Chris Braswell around. You moved Dallas Turner around. Look, Dallas Turner didn't rush the passer every down. He dropped into coverage some, but it was interesting. On downs where Dallas dropped into coverage, Deontay Lawson was coming. On downs that maybe you didn't have everyone, you didn't have the traditional front three rushing or the traditional front four rushing. It was very interesting to see pressure coming off different ends, overloaded pressure. Obviously you still got the stunting going on up front, the end tackle stunts, the tackle end stunts. You still got that happening up front. And yes, the majority of the time you did have Chris Braswell and Dallas Turner rushing. So you put those guys into their best positions to play. But Dallas did a little bit of spy work, did a little bit of dropout work, and gave different looks. Look, I think that Alabama looked more, I don't want to say exotic because that's too far. That's way too far. And that's too high of a compliment, because I think when you run exotic defenses it really confuses offensive lines. And I don't really know that Alabama has done a great job of that over the last handful of years. Maybe that's Nick Saban's touch. Maybe that was Pete Golding's touch. Maybe that's Kevin Steele's touch. But going back to Lane Kiffin's, someone else is coordinating the defense. I think Travaris Robinson is coordinating the defense or calling the plays. We've gone back to his time at South Carolina and been able to match up some of his scheme work to the scheme work that we saw last week against South Florida. Now, look, I did not study the South Carolina tape from way back in the day. But what I noticed on the USF tape, especially in the rewatch, is that Alabama, one, you got lined up a lot faster. Perfect. You love that. And Nick Saban attributed that to streamlining the process. I think Kevin Steele is definitely still in your ear. I think Kevin Steele is definitely still building the game plans. I think Kevin Steele probably has the final say on play calling, but I do think that Travaris Robinson had a little more influence over the weekend. I think that Travaris Robinson, was calling plays with Papa Steele over his shoulder, saying, "Yes, I like that. Yes, I like that. Hey, maybe consider this. Hey, maybe think about that." I do think that now maybe it wasn't 100% Travaris Robinson calling the plays, but I definitely feel like there was some different influences on the Alabama defense over the last week at USF. Will it continue? I have no idea. I'm not allowed at practice. You're not allowed at practice. All we get to see is the 3-minute clip that the Alabama Communications Department sends out on Mondays and Tuesdays. And thank you for that. If we didn't have that, we'd have nothing. So, thank you, sir. May I have another? It's going to be very interesting to see how Alabama continues because you've got great athletes. Deontay Lawson is a great athlete. Oh, I love watching Deontay Lawson play. Now, sometimes I think he's left a little bit to be desired in different areas. But as far as, you grade the whole 3 games, look, I know a lot of you have seen the clip where the Texas linebacker carries him down the field. Don't let that one play get you out on Deontay Lawson. You take the whole 3-game set from Deontay Lawson, you've got a pretty dang good linebacker. I don't love what I've seen with Tresman Marshall. Yes, he's very athletic, very fast. I think that when Jihad Campbell gets to be fully healthy, Jihad Campbell having a little bit of a knee injury and knee surgery in fall camp, got some playing time this past weekend against USF. I think Jihad Campbell is probably your number 2 inside linebacker. And you're going to see him really accept or take that role as SEC play continues or not continues, begins this weekend. I think Kendrick Blackshire, I love him. I love Kendrick Blackshire. He's like a damn hammer. He is a hammer physically. And so you mix in Blackshire, you mix in Lawson, and where the heck has Justin Jefferson been, the JUCO transfer out of Mississippi? A lot of talk in fall camp about Justin Jefferson making an impact on this defense. Have yet to really see him play defensively. So really, you're going to want to see a little bit more from the second inside linebacker position. I like what I saw this past weekend against USF. I like bringing the pressure from different areas. I like bringing pressure, period. Pressure breaks pipes. Pressure busts pipes. Whatever version of that phrase that you want. Yeah, do you like, Jaheim Otis and Tim Keenan, and you like Justin Aboigbe, you like these guys, you like Damon Payne, and you like Jamarian Latham? Yeah, sure, you do. But goodness gracious. Chris Braswell has been a menace this year defensively. Chris Braswell, I think, is leading the nation in pressures already, according to Pro Football Focus. Now, you got to take Pro Football Focus with a grain of salt because they're not always on it, but they give you a pretty good idea of what's going on. Chris Braswell's been a menace. I would confirm that with the film that I have seen. He was all over the place against USF. And I like bringing Chris Braswell and Dallas Turner off the same end, which you saw a good bit of time. You saw a good bit of time against USF. Chris Braswell and Tim Keenan played very, very well side by side, in my opinion, against USF. Now, granted, I'm not a coach. I don't know what the grades were, but I would give them high grades for this past weekend. They played gap sound football. They played physical football, Braswell and Keenan together. And so do I think Lane Kiffin has a point? Yes, I do. I think Lane Kiffin definitely has a point from his conversation on Sunday that Travaris Robinson has more influence over the defense, at least this past week against USF. And Coach Saban's explanation makes perfect sense on Monday. We just wanted to streamline the process. We just wanted to speed up the process, getting the plays into the defense, getting the plays onto the field, getting our guys lined up. Because look, if I know the play is, look, I'll go back to a high school play. We did blue cloud, over basically. And that basically told everybody, look, that's very simplistic high school. But if you give me that play call, and I get a lot of time to get into my position and look at the guard, look at the tackle, look at the tight end, look at whoever I'm reading, my read key, and those concepts still stay the same. I'm into position. I can think about, look, I see 65. He's been my read key all day on this concept. The last handful of times on this concept, he's stepped right. And now I got to be prepared for him to step right again. And I'm going to beat him to that spot. It helps so much. Getting lined up, it slows your mind down and gives you ability to, this is what I'm going to do. When the ball is snapped, I'm just playing. When the ball is snapped, I'm just reading and reacting. When the ball is snapped, my athleticism, my skill set, my general nature of being a really damn good player, because I play at Alabama, is going to take over. Flipping the formations all over the field, getting play calls in late, having guys lined up late is just a big old detriment to the defense. And so, look, will you see it again this weekend against Ole Miss? I have no idea. Because obviously, again, I'm not at practice. I don't know how that's operating. But would I assume so? Yes, I would assume so. Due to Ole Miss's nature, Ole Miss's penchant for going fast, I would definitely assume that what worked on Saturday will carry over into this coming weekend against Ole Miss. At least that's what I would do. That's what I would continue to try. You have a little success, continue to try it, continue to operate in that fashion. And goodness gracious, Lane Kiffin's coming for your neck. So you're going to have to be ready. You're going to have to be ready on fourth down. You're going to have to be ready on third down. Let's say you're in third and long. Of course, they're going to go third. They're going to go for a 2-down play. Lane Kiffin's going to be trying to go for it on fourth down all the time. And so, Alabama fans, come on. You're going to have to be into the game at an even higher rate than you were against Texas. You showed up against Texas fairly well, but we talked about that on the Monday show after the Texas game, about some of my disappointments. Come on. Everybody's going to have to be into the game when Ole Miss has the ball, allowing the Alabama defense to really feed off your energy. And I think that you will continue to see, I hope that you continue to see Travaris Robinson's influence over the defense, bringing pressure packages and really trusting the athletes you have on the back end. Malachi Moore, Kool-Aid McKinstry, these are veteran guys. These guys have played Alabama football for a long, long time. Terrion Arnold has 15, 16 games worth of experience playing defense for Nick Saban. And I think Terrion Arnold is a heck of a good player. Whether you like him or not, I think he's a heck of a good player. Jalen Key has played a lot of college football. He played at UAB. He's played a lot of college football. Now, Caleb Downs, obviously freshman, but hey, buddy, you're going into your fourth game. You've seen some stuff by now. I think you trust these guys on the back end more as you continue to go forward through the season. Bring pressure. Put the guys in the back end on one-on-one situations. They're great athletes. Bring pressure. Affect the other quarterback. You've got to affect Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart's played very well throughout 3 weeks in the season. And really try to jack up and junk up Lane Kiffin's game plan by confusing the offensive line, confusing Jackson Dart, and really getting after the Ole Miss Rebels. So I think that I would like to see Travaris Robinson's influence continue continue on the Alabama defense and continue to attack these offenses. There needs to be no more reacting. Alabama needs to set the tone defensively by attacking the line of scrimmage, resetting the line of scrimmage a yard or two or four back into the backfield and getting after opposing quarterbacks. All right, so there's my defensive take. Did I notice a defensive change? Last thing on Lane Kiffin, then we'll hit the SI Resort and we'll hit Bama Soccer, and then we'll play Silly Sound. Lane Kiffin, I love him. I do love him. I'll be honest with you. I think that he is an offensive genius. I love his approach. I love his use of analytics. I love his aggressive nature. I love going for it on fourth down. I love fake punting. I love, just being all in all, utilizing every weapon that you have on offense. I love any sort of trick plays that you want to pull out. I love them. I think Lane Kiffin is on the forefront, on the cutting edge of offensive football, and on the cutting edge of really football as a whole. But Lane Kiffin, man, and this is just his nature. He can't help it. He cannot help it. Lane Kiffin has done his poking of the Alabama Bear. You can go back to the Sunday conversation. I think someone else is coordinating the defense. He only said that to poke the Alabama Bear. He only said that to mess with Nick Saban, to make Nick Saban come out on Monday and say, "Oh well, Kevin Steele is still the defensive coordinator." All right, so you got that little pokage. Go on to Lane Kiffin's social media. I don't know Taylor Swift's music very well, but there's apparently a song called Castles Crumbling that Lane Kiffin has been tweeting over and over and over again, saying, "Oh, this is a great song. This is a great song. Castles Crumbling." You've got several prominent Alabama Twitter accounts who have said, "Oh, if we lose to Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin's going to come in here and give Alabama a heck of a," that he's been commenting, liking, and not commenting, but leaving emojis, smiley face emojis like, watch out, smiley face emojis like, devil face. He's been playing the social media game. I think he realizes, and just like you guys realize, just like I realize, Alabama's vulnerable right now. Alabama's very vulnerable right now. Now, Lane Kiffin is 0-4 against Nick Saban. You lost the the Rocky Block, and you lost the last 3 years while leading Ole Miss. 2 of the last 3 years have been in crazy games, have been wild games, honestly. Lane Kiffin, I think he feels it in the moment. I think he feels the energy this week that Alabama is as mortal, as vulnerable as they've ever been for a game against Lane Kiffin. And he's been doing the social media thing, not talking loudly, but just enough pokage. He's interacted with the Lane Kiffin's dog account. "Oh, I'm afraid. Da, 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 da." Lane Kiffin coming back saying, "Well, if you're afraid, stay at home. This is a big boy game." Lane Kiffin on the SEC teleconference saying, "Oh, I'm sorry I was late. It takes a lot to beat these guys." Oh, Lane Kiffin saying, "Oh, Alabama's got 85 first-round draft picks, and we only got one with Centarian Perkins. Oh, Alabama, we got the leftover players that Alabama didn't want." This, that, and the other. Really kind of poking the bear. And look, Lane might come in here and actually beat Alabama. They might. But I wonder, is he flying a little too close to the sun? He realizes, we got a chance to fly. And we're 3-0. Oh man, we're number 1 in Joe Gaither in the BamaCentral power rankings. Oh man, we've got a good ranked win against Tulane. We just smacked Georgia Tech. Alabama looks vulnerable. Oh man, Jackson Dart's been playing well. Now he's doing the same old, "Well, we're really hurt. We haven't had a full complement of players." And that's true. It is true. But Lane Kiffin's been doing a lot of talking. A lot of talking for an SEC coach. We'll say that. Not a lot of talking for Lane Kiffin, but a lot of talking for an SEC coach. And now maybe it's all going to get backed up on Saturday. It might. 2:30 on Saturday. Follow us at BamaCentral for all the coverage. We'll have five great reporters in the press box. Matthew Gibson, Austin Hanning, Katie Wyndham, and many, many more in the press box. Edwin Stanton as well, hanging out in the press box. And they're going to do a great job covering the game. Lane Kiffin, this would be a time. Oh my gosh, this would be a time. Now, he's done the respectful, "Nick Saban gave me my life back. Nick Saban revived my career." Blah, blah. Y'all remember he got fired on the tarmac at USC. Nick Saban is the godfather. Nick Saban, I respect him so much. And I think he absolutely does respect Nick Saban. But he's kind of playing the mind games like he likes to play. And I don't know. Is it going to come back and bite him? I don't know. That's part of the reason why I'm starting to shift the other way. Because Nick Saban and them boys have been quiet. Have been, the only thing you've heard about them is, here's the quarterbacks. We're trying to play well. Here's the quarterbacks, and this is what we're trying to bounce back and play better than we did last week. Lane's been getting in the social media game, and it's been very interesting to see. So we'll see how that goes as we get closer and closer to kickoff. All right, last thing for us, last two things for us, and then we'll play SEC Silly Sound. You've got a little bit of an issue, not an issue, a little bit of some great news coming to Tuscaloosa late 2025. So 2 more years, you're going to see Sports Illustrated launching its first college town resort right here in Tuscaloosa. It's going to be per release by Sports Illustrated Resorts, Travel, Leisure, and Sports Hospitality Ventures. The venue will include a full-service hotel, condominiums, vacation ownership club, a signature health and fitness club, restaurants and entertainment. The quote from the CEO: Sports Illustrated Resorts are about hospitality, lifestyle, leisure, and entertainment, where we celebrate not only the legacy of Sports Illustrated, but the path it is on now by immersing our guests in sports culture and providing the best entertainment, cuisine, fitness, health, and wellness to our guests. People are seeking differentiated experiences that allow them to be more active and participatory. And Sports Illustrated Resorts are delivering the ultimate experiences for our guests through the hospitality destinations we are creating. So it's going to be, it sounds like it's going to be a very cool hotel slash resort right here on Rice Mine Road, about a mile or two from my house. Really, you go down Rice Mine Road towards McFarland, right there at the McFarland Bridge. Right across from from Alabama's campus, from the softball stadium. There's a big plot of land that's been cleared for, I don't know, 6 months now, maybe longer. That it sounds like it's going to go on late 2025. Very, very cool venture for Sports Illustrated coming to Tuscaloosa and really setting up new hotel. Sounds like a big old pool, lots of restaurants. Sounds like it's just going to be like an entertainment area. And I'm very excited to be a part of BamaCentral. I'm very excited to see the Daddy Company kind of getting involved further, getting their grips further into Tuscaloosa. I think that's great news for me on the personal level, and I think it's going to be great news for you on the consumer level. It's going to be great news for you as a consumer of Alabama sports, as an enjoyer of Tuscaloosa. I think it's going to be very awesome to see. Look, I know Tuscaloosa has a lot of hotels, has a lot of condominiums, has a lot of places to stay. It seems like this is going to be a little bit more unique, a little bit more sports centric, and I think because of that, it's going to be a very cool project. It's going to be awesome. All right, so tonight we got one more topic to get out of here tonight. Roll Tide, Alabama soccer. Alabama soccer is going to be on the road taking on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Arkansas is 1-0 in conference play. They defeated Tennessee 3-1 last Thursday at 6:30 on ESPN Plus, SEC Plus. You're going to be able to see Alabama taking on Arkansas. Look, Alabama won the SEC championship last year, regular season championship last year. Arkansas won the last 3. So they are the class of the league. Alabama trying to take that crown from them. You can see that at 6:30. You'll be wanting to follow my friend Will Miller at Real WB Miller on the social medias and follow it at BamaCentral, the live updates. If you don't have ESPN Plus, if you don't have SEC Plus, you'll be able to follow it on the live updates right here at BamaCentral.com. Our ladies, we met with Jessica Skorka and Felicia Knox, and we met with head coach Wes Hart on Tuesday. They're heading out on the road trip. Big game as, look, they came off a big old 5-1 win on Sunday. Can they take the scoring explosion over to Fayetteville and keep it going? The ladies scored a lot of great goals. Obviously, anytime you score 5 goals, it's great, but they were beautiful quality goals as well. They were great goals that will inspire confidence for the team going forward. Yes, Gianna Paul got on the score sheet. Yes, Felicia Knox got on the score sheet. You're used to seeing that. But Cami Silva, Leah Cundy, and Nadia Ramadan also scoring good goals, and hopefully that will allow the floodgates to open up again for the Alabama offense. Last year, Alabama's offense led the nation in scoring, and so ideally that will carry over and become a thing for Alabama going forward as SEC play really gets rolling. You're done with non-conference play. Second game of the SEC schedule, 6:30 on SEC Network Plus, ESPN Plus. Well, let's put our energy behind them. Also at 6:30, I will be covering Hey Coach. Hey Coach will be over at Baumhauer's right next to campus. If you don't want to watch it or listen to it on the radio, you can go see it in person. Baumhauer, Bob's Victory Grill over there next to campus. You can see Nick Saban, Eli Gold, and company. Look, I bet the line's already forming. But if you're not there, if you're out of town, if you can't get to a radio signal, you can listen to it or you can pay attention to it on the BamaCentral live blog. I'll be managing the live blog starting at 6:30. Nick Saban show starting at 7 o'clock. Tomorrow, going to try to get the Football Friday crew going. Going to try to get the BamaCentral crew back in the building. You're trying to get predictions on Alabama minus 6.5. We'll try to see if Katie Wyndham, Austin Hannon, see if Wyatt Fulton, see if Chris Walsh, see if anybody else wants to hang out on Football Friday to talk about this Alabama-Ole Miss matchup even further. So that's going to do it for our program today. You can follow us, again, at Joe Gaither 6 on all the social media accounts, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, everywhere online. I am at Joe Gaither 6. I will answer your DMs, accept your friend requests, and take your comments, questions, queries, and complaints right there at Joe Gaither 6. That's going to do it for our edition of the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. I'm going to leave you with week number 3's edition of SEC Silly Sound. Very happy with this edition. Not so happy with the first week. Pretty happy with the first week. Not so happy with the second week. Again, we went back to the drawing board. We reviewed our mistakes. We watched the film. We got back into the scouting department, and hopefully you'll enjoy week number 3's edition of SEC Silly Sound.
Dennis, how are you? Good to see you. Long time no see. Where you been?
Oh, man, another great crowd at Jordan-Hare. Couldn't say enough about our students and our supporters, band, fans, cheerleaders.
Playing an SEC venue.
I think in this league, home field advantage is a big deal, and they were a factor tonight.
Okay, so good to get to 3-0.
Yeah, gutty win.
Wasn't pretty at times.
It was a really good football team we beat.
We're going to celebrate tonight, though. I can promise you that.
They're always sweet.
Tastes like Diet Coke right now, to be honest.
So I'm really proud of our players for the way they competed in the game.
Really proud of our team. Our team.
They did fight.
But I'm really proud of our players for the way they competed in the game.
Just love their the way they thought about this trip.
I like all those guys.
But I'm proud of our players. I'm proud of the way they competed in the game.
It's a hard trip.
The only thing you can beat is 3-0. Can't be 4-0 after 3 games.
I think we could have scored a couple more touchdowns.
2 deep balls in a row.
It's a dirty process, right?
Hooking up to the level that we've all wanted to see.
We struggled a little bit on offense.
Well, dang.
Man, what a gutsy win. What a gutsy performance.
Let's treat this like a business trip.
Need to do a better job of getting them ready to play in games like this.
Totally 100% on me.
Starts with me and our coach staff, too.
That was a failure on my part to recognize that with this team.
Obviously, we got a lot of things to fix, and we'll work on it.
But I'm very pleased with the kids. I love being around them. I love the group of kids.
This group can get better.
Got a lot of work to do.
There's a lot of things that we have to clean up to get better.
We need to fix all those things, and we're certainly going to work on it.
I loved what I saw, loved what I heard from them, and loved that there was just no quit in them.
Pissed me off when we booed our starting quarterback to start the game. That pissed me off.
So we got a lot of work to do there.
Kept answering the bell when we needed to do it.
They were really active down in the box.
Redemption's a beautiful thing.
Talk about having your back against the wall.
Play for 4 quarters an SEC opponent.
Guys came through when they needed to.
See the fruits of their labor.
We're in it together.
You want to boo me? Fine.
Higher risk, but certainly the bigger reward.
These are what happens in games.
Don't give them the ball back.
It's chess, not checkers, people.
We played the guys that practice the best all week long.
I know what you're supposed to do when you coach.
We just need him to be himself.
Well, how many sacks did they have?
That's why you got a game ball.
Last week with the sacks, this week with the sacks.
I'm playing.
We'll evaluate it when we watch the film.
Yeah, I'll have to watch the tape.
I'll reevaluate and I'll look at the film.
We'll go back and watch it.
We'll figure it out. We'll watch it on tape.
What do you think?
My question would be why?
So I tell them, I don't know what's going to happen.
Completely boneheaded.
You had to get up 2 scores in a game.
That's an old school way of thinking.
Now, I want our players to be happy about the fact that they won.
And let's be the first ones back in Baton Rouge tonight and enjoy a Saturday night.
You're trying to get to the house with a W.
Probably learn more from failure than you do successes.
This game will teach you a lot about life.
Hopefully, we'll all learn lessons from the experiences that we have.
But hopefully we can not self-sabotage ourselves.
So then we took the penalty to make it more dramatic.
We just do what it takes to win.
I think it was huge.
Well, it's good to know Bryce won't be there.
That would be amazing.
You view the game for what it is. It is a game.
This is all for TV anyway. It's in the script.
Those plays I know will haunt us.
All good ideas are my ideas.
Bull crap.
I hate it.
I'll say it again.
Nobody was doing what they needed to.
Yeah, guys, in practice all the time.
You see that we stretch now.
That is the most irrelevant stat.
It's 4 quarters.
End of the day, we got to operate.
It worked, so we'll consider it my idea.
I'm going to say it.
A lot of young guys getting some work.
Moose got some balls.
Without question.
You know, we did our homework.
They've been edgy to go longer and harder.
This game's always been about people.
They believe in each other. They believe in each other.
Jake Johnson got some balls.
End of the day, man, you line up with the guys that you got.
I don't know what people thought.
Momentum's real if you allow it to be real.
Much like many of you, when you go play golf, sometimes you show up and you don't quite have it.
That's why he's the starting quarterback.
Some guys will get hot at times.
Witt can run.
Well, yeah, you got to run for a reason.
Came out and used his arm to throw the ball down the field.
It's been a long time since I've seen an official kick the ball.
You just don't run to run.
Write what you want to write.
Whatever you say, I mean, it's always right.
You know, number one core value for our team is always compete to do it better than it's ever been done before.
Pretty good night. Pretty good night.
Got the SEC schedule coming, so the gauntlet's coming.
MIZ.